Time to focus on those pennies and how you manage them, because sometimes it really feels like just a few pennies and you kind of don't know where do we go from here. Well, you have to start from a place of knowing what you have and then writing everything down that you spend. Once you can do that, Crystal can help you. Good morning, Crystal Howell.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Crystal Howell.
Great to have you back with us.
Thank you.
Now, she is a chartered professional accountant. So this is no joke thing here. She is also a certified internal auditor, so she knows what she is talking about. So help us move on from we started writing everything down now. What else do we need to do?
Okay, so I'll give a brief recap of the past few
Absolutely.
weeks so people can catch up. We have been writing everything down. Some persons have been more faithful than others.
At least I kept my receipt.
So we would have gone through our spreadsheet and seen what it looks like to document everything for a month. And then we would have done the comparison. This is assuming that you would have been documenting for several months. And we would have seen the difference across these time periods to be able to start zeroing in on what really causes our pennies to disappear. And then we dived into something called a cash reconciliation. And this one helps you to be able to see if you would have missed something, because you would have X amount of money in your bank account, X amount of cash in your purse. When you look at that and you compare to what you would have spent, you'll be able to see if you've been keeping track properly. So if your bank account and your cash on hand says that you're supposed to have $1,000 in total, but you only have 900, then you know you missed something along the way. So that cash reconciliation is simply just to help you to track if you've been documenting properly. So
Is that a weekly activity though? Do my cash reconciliation, or should I do it daily?
it depends on you, but I prefer daily if you
Yes.
can, because it helps if you've forgotten something.
Yes.
If you think you will be able to remember everything you spent at the end of the week, your memory is much better than mine.
Yeah, I understand what you mean with that completely. At the end of the day, it's usually better.
Yeah, you don't remember. Sometimes even at the end of the day, I'm struggling, but at least when I see the amount, it might jerk in my memory, okay, yes, I did spend $120 in gas, so that's where that missing figure is. Whereas at the end of the week, you might accumulate so many things you didn't remember that it becomes a bit daunting. How do I remember all the things that I would have spent money on that I didn't get a receipt for, or that I didn't track properly in my phone because I should have been jotting it down? We're not always the best at keeping to habits until we get it solidified. So in the beginning, as much as you can, and I've been doing this for years, and I still do it on a daily basis.
You know, for anyone watching, it might feel as if it's a lot of work, but over time, you know, the joy of it actually begins to come in, because you feel as if you're sucking all the fun out of living. I just want to live. You just want to splurge a little, have a little fun.
When I was leaving the studio last week, there was a lady who was sitting there, and she was like, you know, I've been following and I do the spreadsheet, and it actually makes it better.
Really?
She
There you
said that
go.
since she started doing the documentation and writing it down, it doesn't take the fun out of it, it takes the anxiety out of it.
There you go. I could agree with that.
You begin to realize, okay, this is where my money's going. I feel relatively comfortable that I have enough for my surprise expenses, which you can't always cope with, like things like land tax that kind of pushed up the deadline.
Relief is coming.
I hope the relief comes, because some persons would have been planning for land tax in October,
Yeah.
and then you get the surprise in July. So at least having the spreadsheet, you might be able to see, okay, I wasn't ready for July, but let me see what I can pull from to help me to be able to make that deadline.
But it all depends on how much you earn in the first place.
It does.
You're disposable too.
It does. This is why it's so important to see where you have opportunities to save, because something like that can really create a lot of anxiety, and I understand that completely. But this, I'm not saying it's magic and it
Right.
makes all your problems disappear, but it definitely helps to reduce the anxiety.
I think we're trying to reduce the knee-jerk reactions to emergencies when they occur, or to
Correct.
unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's what the planning would help us to be
Exactly.
able to do. So I can able to say, you know what, normally I would spend $500 a month in clothing, for
Yes.
instance. And you're saying,
Wow.
okay, because we have this bill to meet, maybe I need to either reduce or cut it out, period. I won't be buying clothing for
Correct.
the next whatever. And then once that's covered, I can now return to my other behavior.
And it really helps if you have friends that support what you're doing, because a lot of my friends, not all, I'm trying to get everybody on board, but we're now talking about the budget. We have persons who have a female budget or a male budget, and we refer to it like another person where I have to consult with budget first to see if I can do this or that or the third. And you have friends who keep you on track. And it's important to have that support system as you're going through this, because it's not fun, but it actually is a little bit better when you don't feel as though you're in it alone.
And if, speaking of in it alone, if you are in a, you're married or you're living together, you know, you should be doing that together with your partner, right?
It really helps if you are. Not every partner gets on board, because everybody is not the same in terms of ability to stick to a budget. You know, you have persons with different personalities, but if you can at least not be in the person's way and try to cooperate a little bit, that would help a lot. It really would.
Okay, we're gonna pause. We're gonna pause here. That was a very polite way of saying it. Not be in the person's way. Just try. But you know, if you're together, it might help if you merge. But some people just don't like that.
You don't have to merge, but you can make sure that you're on the same page at least.
Good. Crystal, it's always difficult to, you know, get into these areas, something that is new. For people who are used to doing budgets, it may be easy, but it's a necessary ill. So if you're realizing that, you know, the money may just not be enough, no matter how many areas you clip and cut from and pull back from, what's the next step?
You're going to have to look, there are only two options. You can either cut your expenses or increase your income. That's it.
Yeah.
So if you get to the point where, when we go through all of the areas where you can help to save pennies and cut expenses and everything else, and the income just is not enough, you're going to have to increase your income. And there are multiple ways that you can do that, but none of them are easy. I said from the very first episode, this is not going to be a quick fix situation.
Right.
And trying to find ways to increase your income, yes, you can go into something to see if you can make a quick buck, but if you want to be sustainable, there's a lot of work that you're going to have to do. When you hear about investing in yourself, that's the area I'm going to go into in the coming weeks.
And there might be some initial outlay of further funds as well.
Correct.
That you need to plan now for.
Yep. So that's
so
where it gets
plan from a position
very.
of nothing to spend even more.
I actually, my friend Melinda Bell, she speaks very often about certain businesses that you can start with little to no money.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to follow her as well, where she gives you, from her personal experience and from mine as well, how you can start businesses with very little income. And right now, the internet is your best friend, because you want to make sure you're putting out a product that can stand a cut above the rest. And you can invest in yourself by going on YouTube, going on the internet, developing your skills, going back to school, whatever the funds allow. Because you have to bear in mind, you can only work with what you have.
Yeah. Speaking of funds, now, if you don't have, but you see a way, you have a great idea that's not going to take a whole lot of startup, but you may require a loan. What do you say to the individual about borrowing and really making it work for them?
Now, borrowing is a little difficult, and I'm only saying this because from personal experience, I've had friends who, because they don't have a steady income or they're working as their own entrepreneur, they've had difficulties going to the bank and getting those funds that they need, and it may seem like a small amount. This is why the plan that the government has for those $5,000 loans are so important.
Yes.
But hopefully along with that comes the education as to how you can maximize that money that's given to you. So the things that they usually ask for, which would include a set of financial statements and records. This is why I say the documentation is so important, because as I understand the difficulties the financial institutions have giving money to some person who does not seem to have a plan. But persons most of the time don't even know that they should have been tracking all of these things so that they can show the institution, this is how I've been going so far. This is where your additional money is going to help me to get to that next step.
Yeah.
So that's why I keep saying it's important to document, have your documentation there.
And once you get the loan, it's important also to spend the money on what you say you're going to do it for.
Because a lot of persons get the money and it's the first time they've had a lot of money in their hands, and you feel almost obligated to treat yourself. But it's very important to stick to the plan, because even with the best plan, every plan that I've ever had, you almost always go over budget. And you don't want a situation where before you've even realized what you want to do, the money has run out, and then you look as though you're not being efficient or with the money that you've been given, and you haven't been able to fulfill the dream that you had for this particular fund.
I think part of this discipline is just simply to be honest with yourself.
Yes.
You can't be dishonest with yourself and hope to see better results.
Agreed.
So you note it down, every single thing down,
Yes.
and be honest about it. You know, feel bad if you have to feel bad, but you'll feel better
Feel shame if you
over
have
time.
to feel shame too, but
Correct.
just
It'll be
get
okay.
over it.
There's not the same way you go to the doctor
It'll be
when you
okay.
have a problem, the same way that you don't feel embarrassed when your car breaks and you take it to the mechanic. Don't feel bad if your expenses make you look like a person you don't want to be. And don't expect to change all your habits overnight. That's another problem. Same thing with dieting. We have these fantastic ideas that all of a sudden we're going to cut out all junk food, all processed food. Finances are the same way. Take it based on your personality. If you need to go bit by bit by bit, you accustomed spending $500 on clothes, you need to cut down to $450. Even if it's just that $50, you will get there eventually. Is a start. Don't put pressure on yourself because of the perception of what other people think you should be doing.
All right. So again, if people want to really reach out to you, they can find you how?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube and LinkedIn.
As Miss Red here. As who?
I'm Crystal Howell, Krystle on Instagram. I'm Crystal Pixie. But you can find me on YouTube as well. Yes, I'm a very tiny person.
Yes.
And on YouTube, I'm Crystal's Corner.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will have all of my hashtags for you guys the next time.
Please do, please do.
Excellent. Always great information, Crystal. We really appreciate it. So the thing is, you can turn it around. And as Crystal said, if you realize you've cut and contrived all you could and you can't do any more, the next step is to look for another source of income to add to what you have. And she can help you see how to do that and how much more you need to get to be in a comfort zone. So thank you so much. I look forward to next Monday's session. Hope you are too.